Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel, and in this video we are going to make a fully animated landing website where we are going to use Figma motion for the animations and the tailwind chases for styling. So this tutorial is fully focused on the front end skills and the animation skills, and for that we are going to use the Figma motion here. Now let me show you a small preview of this website and then we can start building this amazing website using our NextJs and the tailwind chases and Figma motion for the animation. So refresh one more time and let's look at the full preview of this website. So this will be a small tutorial on how to make an animated website using Figma motion, and I'll explain as much as possible about the Figma motion and how you can animate a particular website. Without further ado, let's get started and start building this application. So right now I have an empty project, and now first we are going to install our next step here. So for that, open your terminal and then we are going to write our command that will be npx create next step. Okay, now we are going to install 14.2 version of NextJs, and after that we are going to provide the name of our project, and that would be Techie. You can choose anything you want. Then we are going to go with the TypeScript. Then we are going to have the ESLint, tailwind CSS. We are going to use the source directory here and app router as well, and we are not going to customize our aliases. And now let's wait for the installation here. Now with that we are done with our installation. Let's go to our project directory. So cd techie and tab. Now let's start our server. For that, write npm run dev and open this in a browser. Let's copy this, or you can just press command or control over it and then press it. This will open your server here. So now we have our NextJs server ready. Let's go and do some basic uh, setup here. So go to the page.tsx and we have to remove all this, and then write div. For now, save this and go back to the global.css, remove all this, save, and yeah, that's it. Now we have a blank page over here, and let's write something, save it, and as you can see this is working. So with this we are done with our setup and installation, and now let's go to the global.css, and we are going to provide the background color of our application, and that would be this dark background color here. And after that, let's go to the page.tsx. We are going to remove this and use a main tag here and give this a class name, and inside the class name we are going to provide the position to be relative. And after that, first we are going to work on our navbar section. Okay, so we can have our navbar here, navbar, and then self closing tag. Now let's go to the component. So we need to make our new folder here, which will be the components, and inside that we are going to have our component navbar.tsx. Then we can use a shortcut key here, tsrfc, and this will give us a functional component of React. Okay, and now let's go here and import this component over here by placing command dot. You can have this option over here, so you just need to press your cursor over here, then you need to press command and dot, and you will get this option. I think in the Windows you can have the same functionality by pressing control dot. I'm not sure, but in Mac you can do that by command and dot. So we are going to press that, okay, and import our component over here. save it, and let's go back to our navbar.tsx. Our navbar will have a logo over here and some options uh, for the users to interact with. So let's go here and let's create a div which we already have and give this a class name of wfull. Okay, and then we are going to specify uh, the maximum width of our screen, and that would be max w screen xl. So if you hover over this, you can see that the maximum width we are specifying is 1280 pixels. Now to make everything in center, let me show you. If I write something here, you can see okay, we are not seeing anything here. Let's make our text white for now. Okay, so as you can see, this text is on the left side, but our screen is only 1280 pixels. Let me inspect this, and as you can see, our screen is only 1280 pixels. So for this div to be in the center of our whole screen width, we have to use mx auto, which will give equal amount of margin to both sides of our div. As you can see, we have same margin on the both side to make everything in center. So with that done, we can continue writing our css over here. After that, we are going to provide horizontal padding of 4 for smaller devices. For medium devices, we are going to go with the px8, and for larger devices we are going to go with the px16. Okay, now for the padding top, we are going to go with the 40 pixels, and for pb we are going to go with the 20 pixels. After that, provide the display property. We are going to go with the flex item center and justify between, and then we want font weight of our text to be a little bit lighter. For that, we can write font light. Okay, so let me save this and go back here. So you can see this is a little bit thinner. If I remove this, this is a little bit thicker. So we are going to go with the font light font weight here. After that, we are going to provide the text color. We are not going to go with the text white here. Text zinc of 300. Okay, then we are going to make our navbar sticky. So for that, we can specify the position to be sticky and then give the top value to be 0. Okay, and also one more thing, that we are going to make the background of our navbar to be blur. For that, we can use one more css property, backdrop filter, and for that we can use backdrop blur, and we are going to go with the medium, the z index of 20. Now let's save and go back here. Now you will see nothing right now. Now inside this div, we are going to have one more div. Inside that, we are going to have a tag, and the href will be slash, which will be the home page, and then give this a class name. Z index will be 50 and position, then display property flex item center and space x1. And now inside the a tag, we are going to have svg and a span. So for the logo, we are going to use this svg here, and below this svg we are going to have a span, and inside that we are going to write a text which will be techie, and give this a class name, font bold and text to excel. And for our logo here, we are going to go text white, which will be the text color white. Now let's save, and we have our logo over here. And now after that, we are going to work on the right section of our navbar. So below this div we are going to make one more div and give this a class name max md hidden. Okay, so below 768 window size, we are not going to show the right part, only we are going to, instead of that we are going to show a hamburger here. After that the display will be flex item center space x6 horizontal spacing, and overflow will be hidden. Inside this div we are going to have a tag, and inside that we can have a span, inside that we can write docs. Now duplicate this one more time, and the second value will be blog. After that we are going to have a search input bar. So below this we can have a div and give this a class name. The height of our search bar will be 32 pixel, which is h8. And now for our search bar, we are going to have gradient colors for the background. For that we can write bg gradient, and if your tailwind intelligence is not working, you can always press Ctrl spacebar and it will start showing again. So we are going to go with the bg gradient bottom right. So this means from the top left to the bottom right. Okay, and the colors will be from zinc 600, so we can write zinc 600 to zinc 900. Okay, so these are the background colors, and then we are going to provide the border radius, which will be the rounded LG. Then on focus we are going to go with outline none, and the width will be 56, which is 224 pixels. Now inside this div we are going to have one more div, give this a class name as well, flex item center and gap of 2, then padding right of 1, padding left of 3, bg gradient to bottom right from top left, and this time the color will be from zinc 800 to zinc 950, h full and rounded of 7 pixels. So for custom border radius we can use the square brackets here and then put inside the pixels, which is 7 pixel. And actually I forgot to increase the text size here, so let's increase that, remove our terminal here and this as well. Now inside this div, I think this should be enough. Now inside this div we are going to have our search icon svg. Okay, you can copy these svgs from my GitHub, and below this we are going to have one more div, and below this we are going to have one more div, give this a class name of, and we are going to align our text to the left, so we can write text left, then grow font thin, text neutral of 300, and we can write search docs. Below this we can have one more div, give this a class name shrink 0 and bg gradient to bottom from top, and the colors will be from zinc 400 to zinc 600, and give this border radius of rounded here, and inside that we can have one more div. Okay, give this a class name and specify the background color, which will be bg zinc 700, text axis, which will be the extra small, which is 12 pixel in this case, and color will be black and the text color will be white, and px1 py of 0.5 rounded of 3 pixels, so we can specify like this. Inside that we can have this. Okay, now save this and go back here. As you can see, we have talks, blog and a search bar here. Okay, so we have a div over here and a div over here. Why this is not working? Okay, so this will be justified between. I made a mistake over here. Save, and now they both are on the opposite ends here. Now after this, after our search bar here, we are going to have two more icons here. So we can have a div, give this a class name of flex item center gap of 4. And inside this div we are going to have an anchor tag, and in which we are going to have a GitHub icon over here. Similarly, we are going to have another anchor tag, and this will contain the Discord icon. Now let's save and go back to our browser, and as you can see, we have the GitHub and the Discord icon over here. And now let's add our hamburger menu here, which is just an icon for the smaller devices. So outside this div we can have one more div and give this a class name md hidden. So above 768 pixel this div will be hidden, and we can have our icon svg over here. Save, and let's make it small, and as you can see, now we have our hamburger menu here, and on the bigger devices we do not have that. So with that we are done with our Navbar here. Now we are going to apply the animations from the frame of motion, and for that first we need to make this a client component. And now let's open our terminal, and we can write cd techie and then npm I framer motion, and let's see what we are getting in our console. So we need to do some changes in our SVGs. So let's find that. So we need to change the stroke width. So stroke width here to this, then line cap, and then line join. Okay, and let's refresh this, and now we do not have any kind of warning here. Okay, so everything is done. Now let's import our frame of motion from frame of motion. Okay, so now let's work on the animation part, and first we're going to work on our logo. So to change this tag, HTML tag, to a frame of motion tag so that we can apply the animations on that, we need to add motion dot and then the tag name. So this way this will change to a frame of motion tag, you can say that, and after that we can apply the frame of motion properties on this tag to animate this. So let me show you. When you press the control space, you will see many options here, like animate and initial. So these are some properties from the frame of motion along with the actual properties from the HTML tag, like area properties here. So for the R use, we are going to use initial. So this sets the initial position or the state of our tag. So let's specify like opacity, and opacity I want to be 0 initially. So now if I save this and go back here, you can see that I do not see our logo over here. But if I try to inspect this, you can see we have our uh, path, SVG and everything here. Okay, so this means the opacity style has been applied. Now along with opacity, you can also implement other properties like scale to be 0.4 maybe. And after that we are going to work on the animation part. For that we are going to use animate property. Similarly, like this, we can provide the different properties. Now since initially the opacity is 0, so we want to make our opacity to 1 so that we can see when the animation happens. So we can write opacity to be 1, and let's save. We are not changing the scale here. So now as you can see, if I refresh this, we are getting the animation from opacity 0 to 1, but the scale is still 0.4. So let's add this as well to 1, and now as you can see, the opacity also changes, the scale also changes, and we get this beautiful animation over here. So this is how you basically animate in frame of motion. But this is a very basic level animation. We are going to go more complex one in our tutorial. So I'm not going to use the scale property here as well. Actually I want this logo to come from below. Okay, let me show you. So when I refresh this, right now this is not animated, but you'll see that these texts are coming from below, and as you can see, initially they are coming from behind the background to top of the background. For that we need to wrap our motion div inside another div. Okay, and we need to give this a class name, and we need to provide a specific class name which will be overflow hidden. Okay, and yeah, so anything which is outside this div will not be visible. So if we uh, if we make the initial position to be here of this logo, and since that would be the outside this div, we will not be able to see that logo. Okay, let me show you what I'm talking about. Let's make the okay the y value to be, I think, -100. Okay, and now as you can see, we are not able to see our logo here. And if I make the y to 0 when this div animates, we will be able to see the animation. Okay, okay, as you can see, it is coming from above. For below, we can make this a positive value, refresh the page, and as you can see, this is coming from below. Now here we are getting some bouncy effect here, but that's fine. Now another property that we can use here, which will be the transition, and we can specify some properties here like delay, duration, and type of animation, like this. So let's give this a duration of maybe 0.3 seconds and refresh the page. As you can see, now this is giving us more smooth animation here. Okay, now apart from duration, we have many properties over here. You can play around and explore this, like delay, ease. Now this gives us the type of animation we can have. Okay, so let's go with the maybe circle in out, refresh it, refresh the page, save this, refresh the page, and actually let's remove the duration over here. As you can see, now when I remove the duration, it is not giving me the bouncing effect but a different kind of animation, which is in this case circle in out. Let me change this to maybe linear, so the speed of the animation will be same. Okay, we are not seeing any difference because the animation time is too slow, so we can go with the duration of maybe 0.3 second. So with this I have explained you the basics of frame motion, and we also have animated the logo here. Now for the right part we are going to do the same here, but actually initially I have done different here. Some part is coming from below and some part is coming from right side, but I think the animation will be look more good if the all elements will come from the same side, and in this case I want every element to come from below. Okay, so we can just go here, actually copy all this. Okay, and make one more div here, make this a motion dot div, cut this and paste here, save this. Okay, and also copy this, give this a class name, and now let's go here, refresh this, and as you can see we have our animation over here. So now with that we are done with the navbar and also with the animation. Now we are going to move on the next part, which is the hero section. Okay, if I do not add this CSS over here, you'll see that this thing is coming from below. Okay, this is not coming from behind. Actually, let me remove the opacity. So actually remove this opacity here. Okay, and you'll see that initially this is somewhere here, and then going back to its initial position, but that's not what we want here. We want that initially it should be behind the background, and then it should come out from here, not from here, and that's why we use overflow hidden over here. Okay, so let's add that again, and now if I refresh it, you'll see that this is coming from here, not from here, and that's what we want. Now let's again add the opacity to 1, not 0, and opacity to 1. Okay, so now that we are done with our navbar, now we are going to work on the hero section. So let's open our file directory by pressing command and B, and let's go to the page.tsx. Here make one more div and give this a class name, max w screen lg and mx auto. Now inside that we are going to have our hero section, so we are going to make that here, and then inside the component make the hero component, right, tsrefc. Now let's go here and import that, and here as usual first we are going to design our hero section and then do the animation. Give this a class name w full. px4 we can have px8. Then for larger devices we are going to have px16, and padding top will be 20. After that, inside this div we are going to have one more div. Give this a class name display flex. Direction will be flex column, and for the bigger devices, that means above MD, the direction will be row, so flex row. For bigger devices, gap will be of 6 in the horizontal direction, and for larger devices gap will be 0. For the extra large devices we are going to have display grid, and the grid column of 2, margin top of 4. Okay, after that, inside this div make one more div. Give this a class name of shrink 0, and above MD W will be 1 by 2, LG W will be 7 by 12, and above Excel W will be auto. First we are going to specify the text size, so it will be text 4XL, and above LG we are going to have text 5XL, and margin bottom of 8, and the font weight will be semi-bold. Now inside this we are going to have some spans, so add a span over here. Give this a class name text transparent bg clip text, and then we are going to provide the background, so bg gradient to bottom right from top left. The color will be from white to zinc 300, then inline block. Inside this we are going to write the, now let's duplicate this 2 more times, and here write, now let's change the color here, so from violet 400 to violet 600. Now let's save and go back here, and now we do have our h1 tag here. Okay, so this is not perfectly aligned, so let's go here, and okay, this will be Excel. Now after this h1 tag we are going to have another list here, and let's give this a class name. So class name will be text white and space y2. Now inside this we are going to have list, then give this a class name flex, and then gap will be of 3. Now this list will contain SVG here, and then a span. Inside that we can write this. So similarly we are going to have 3 more lists here, so duplicate this 3 more times, and we are going to change the span values. And now after that we are going to have a button. For that, make a div, give this a class name of empty10 flex call, and item center, and gap will be 3. Now inside this div we are going to have anchor tag, href will be slash, then give this a class name, inline flex relative, position will be relative, z index will be 10, h will be of 10, rounded axle, and p of px, this means 1 pixel of padding. Then we are going to have shadow lg, and then we are going to have a gradient background, so we can write bg gradient to bottom from top, and the color will be from white to zinc 300, and inside that we are going to have one more div. So make a div over here, give this a class name, flex item center, gap of 1, px6, and font weight will be font medium, rounded lg, and rounded axle which is 12 pixels, then white space no wrap, bg white, text black. Then we can write our text inside a span, get started, and below that we are going to have svg. And now let's save and go back to our browser. So now as you can see, our left side is defined. Let's fix the position of our button here. So okay, so above sm we are going to have flex row. Now let's save, and now we have our button aligned with the text. So we are done with our left part. Now we are going to make the right part of our hero section. So below this div, let's see what div, so we can close this. Okay, so below this div, make one more div, give this a class name. Initially it will be hidden, and above md the display will be block, pt of 3, shrink, and grow overflow will be hidden. Now inside this div we can have one more div, give this a class name as well, which will be relative position. Now make one more div, give this a class name as well, position will be relative, p of px, and overflow hidden, rounded 3xl, and above sm we can have the border radius of rounded to rem. Okay, then bg gradient to bottom right, and from white to zinc 400, 600. Now inside this div, make one more div, give this a class name. Let's see what we have. So rounded of 3xl, which is 24 pixels, then sm rounded of 31 pixel, and overflow hidden, padding will be 1.5, and then bg gradient to br from zinc 400 to zinc 700. Now inside this we are going to have one more div, give this a class name, copy this and paste here. First the rounded value will be 17 pixels, then 25 pixels, and you're going to get it from 800 to 950, and there will be no padding. Now inside this we can have our image, so we can have the image. Now src will be /image1 dot webp, then give this a class name absolute object cover, and then object center. Then provide the width will be 1000 and height will be 1000. Alt value it will be hero image. Okay, so let's see what is error here. So actually there was no error, just refresh the page and you'll get your image here. So now we have our image over here, and we need to make a button on the top of the image. Okay, so now below this image we are going to have a div. Give this a class name of absolute insert 0 bg black and 50% opacity, then flex item center and justify center. Now inside this we are going to have our button, and this will have class name as well, inline flex h of 10, rounded axle, and p of px which is 1 pixel, then bg gradient to bottom right from top left from. Okay, so we are going to specify the custom color here, which is hashtag h4 b2e5 to eb1. okay, and this should be closed, and then provide the shadow which will be shadow lg. Now inside this button make one more div, give this a class name, and this will have these classes: flex h full item center, gap to px6, font weight will be font medium, and border radius will be 11 pixels, and then we are going to give the gradient color to the background. And now inside this we are going to have svg, so we are going to use the play button svg here, and then below that we are going to use a span, and that we can write watch video. Now let's save and go back to our browser, and now as you can see, now we have our button over here, and the background is little bit dull, and yeah, so with that we are done with our hero section, but only the rendering part. Now we are going to go with the animation part here. And one more thing, let's make this 80, no, maybe 30. okay, so now we are able to see background image a little bit more. So now with that done, I'm also going to add a svg to our page.tsx. so just right here, and these are the dots, so our page will look like this. okay, now if we want this image, actually we want this image to be about these dots, so we can go here and we can write actually here z index of 50, and now we have our image over the dots, which is what we wanted. So now let's go and animate every single part of our hero section. So now we are going to work on the animation of this part. So let me refresh this, and as you can see, we are getting our text like this. okay, so for that we are going to make another component here named hero animation .tsx. And now let's remove this. First, let's make this a client component since we are going to use frame of motion here, and then we can import motion from frame of motion. So now let's first write our JSX over here, and then we are going to work on the animation. Now here we are going to require one more library, which is CLX, which will allow us to pass our class name, that means classes, to these component, just like the setCN, where you can customize your component by passing new classes. So we are going to do the same here, and for that we are going to install that library. So we can write npm iclsx. Okay, and now let's go here in src, make one more folder named lib, then a file named utils.tsx. Now here import type, class, value, and clsx from clsx. And secondly, we are going to require the tw merge that will add the classes to the tailwind classes. For that we need to install that package as well. So we are going to write npm i tailwind merge. So install that, and then we can, okay, so tailwind, this should be d, and let's import that here. So import curly braces from tailwind merge, and we are going to import tw merge. And now here we are going to export a function that will add the classes to the tailwind classes. So we can write export function cn, and this will take the inputs that we are passing the classes, and this will have the type of class value array, and then we are going to return the final style here. So we can write return tw merge, that will merge the classes, and clsx, and then inside that we can have our inputs. So what is happening here, the CLX is joining the class names here conditionally and efficiently, and the tw merge is checking for if there is any redundancy or conflict between the classes and optimizing according to the tailwind CSS. So these two are very important. If you don't add the tw merge, then some classes will conflict and will give different output that we don't want. So after that, we have exported our function here. We are going to import that function over here. So import cn from this, and now we can change this function a little bit since we are going to pass the classes here. So instead of function, we are going to use other function here. So const hero animation, and we can write react dot forward ref, type will be html, div element, and the props. Now then here we are going to use the arrow, and then after that remove this, use small braces, then curly braces, text, class name, these are the argument that we are going to pass, and then we can spread our props here. And lastly we can add the ref over here. Now let's remove this and add it here, and also the arrow should not be here. Instead of that, the arrow should be here. Okay, so now we do not have any error in the definition of the function. Now we need to add our types over here. So remove this first, and we are going to use interface here, that is going to extend react.html attribute of HTML div element, and inside that we are going to have text, which will be a type of string, and this is required, then class name, and this will be optional, and the type will be string. So with that, we are done with our the definition over here. Now we are going to write the JSX. So let's go below, and okay, so before writing our JSX, first let's define the variants here, and also what we are going to do with the text. So we are going to have item variant. Now in the hidden part, that means the initial part, you can say, so initially the position will be 200% of our text, opacity will be of 0, and then we can have the transition. Now the transition type will be is, okay, and then the duration will be of 0.85 seconds. Now in the visible part, we are going to have y to be 0, the text opacity will be 1, and then we can copy this transition and paste it here, and this time this will be 75. After that, what we are going to do with the text, so we are going to split our text into words, into each characters, and we are going to treat them as a child component. On that we are going to use this variant. Okay, so we will see this kind of animation. As you can see, our text is coming one by one, each letter is coming one by one from below. So for that we need to separate each letters from these words. For that we can write a function. So we can write const words is equals to text dot split, and we are splitting by space, and then we are going to map it word now from the string we get word, and now we are going to work on the word. So const characters word dot split, so we are splitting the word as well. After that we are going to add a non-breaking space to the end of each word, so we can write characters dot push. Since this gives us a string of array, so we can use push here, and we are going to push backward slash u 00 a 0, and after that we are going to return our characters. This will give us a two-dimensional array. After that we are going to work on our JSX part. So we are going to provide the ref property here, and inside that we can pass this ref. Now after that we can also add our props here by spreading them, and inside this we are going to map over our words. Words dot map word, then index, return. Now here we are going to use span, and key will be index, and give this a class name of white space no wrap, and also style. So in the style we can add overflow. Now inside this one we are going to map over the word, and this will have element and the character index. This time we are using the small braces here, so we do not need to return here. Okay, so inside that we can have a span here. The key will be char index, and now inside that, and also give this a style. So the style will be overflow hidden, and then display of inline block. Since animation will only work if the element have display block or inline block, it will not work on the inline display. So now inside that we are going to have one more span, give this a class name, and here we are going to use this function. So remove this, that's cn, and inside that we can pass our CSS that we are getting from here as a string. So I'm going to pass the random CSS now, and along with that I'm also going to pass the class name here. Okay, so this is the predefined that we are defining CSS over here. Like you can write text black or anything like that, and this CSS, that means the classes, is coming from outside, from outside, where we are going to import this component. Now after that let's define the style here. So again the display will be inline block, and lastly we can add the element here. Okay, so with that actually we are done with this component, and let's save, and now let's use that in our hero section. Let's import our hero animation, and first we're going to pass the text will be this, and then we can pass the class name over here, and class name will be this, and we can comment this out. Similarly duplicate this, and this time pass the text do clustering, and this CSS, and do same for this. Now let's save, and actually we should not get any kind of difference here. Okay, since we are passing the same CSS here, and we just defined our component, which right now does not do anything, but now we are going to work on our animations here. So first let's go here, and we are going to add the motion property here. Now the variant will be item, and then okay, that's it. And if I save this, still the animation will not work. Why? Because these are child component. Actually these are child components, and for this to work, first we need to initialize the parent component. So that means we need to add the animation over here in the h1 tag, which is parent to these components. So we are going to define one more variant here, which will be the variant for this parent. So first the parent component animation will start, and then that will start the animation for the children's. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So let's define more variants here. So we can write const container, that will be the name of our variant, and initially we can define the hidden, or we can not define that. It's totally up to if the initial property is not very different from what we are seeing here. Okay, so we are not defining the hidden property here, we are just defining the visible. And here we can write the transition. Okay, and then stagger child to 0.05025, and let's make this motion dot h1. Okay, we need to first import motion here, import motion from frame motion, and also make this a client component. And then add our motion here, then initial, and then we are going to have initial state which will be hidden. Okay, and animate, and animate will take this visible property. Okay, and then we can have our variant here in which we can pass the container. Now if I save this and go back here, refresh the page, and you can see that our animation is working. So I think now you understand. We first need to initialize the animation of our parent if we are using variant. In case if you are not using variants, that means if you are defining the initial animate conditions and you do not define the property for variant here, okay, so in that case the animation will start without the parent. So let me show you. If I go here and instead of using the variant here, if I do the initial to be this, okay, and the transition will be outside, so let's remove this, and the animate will take this, and then we can have our transition. So copy this and paste here. Okay, now let's save and go back to the hero, and we can remove this. Now let's save, and as you can see, even though I did not start the animation of our parent here, the animation for the children is happening, but not in the way that we wanted to, but it is happening. So that means if you are using the variant like this, where we provided the variant to be item, then you first need to initialize the animation of the parents. In that case, you need to add the variant as well here. Okay, to get this animation. Now one more thing, right now the animation is like this. We can do a little bit change here. So let's go here and we can provide the initial value here as well, which will be the opacity to 0, and while animate we can have the opacity to 1, and refresh the page, and we'll get something like this for our animation. So you can play around this and you can change the animation for our h1 tag here, but for us we are going to go with the previous one. And with that we are done with our text animation for this part. Now we are going to animate these and this as well. So let's go below. Now we are going to work on a list. For that we need to make two more variants here. So that const wrapper, and initially the opacity will be of 0, and when visible opacity will be of 1, and then we can add the transition. Here we can add stagger children by 0.125 seconds. That means each children will come after this delay. Okay, now after that we are going to define one more variant, which will be list. It will have the hidden property. Opacity will be 0 initially, and we can add translate x to -100, or you can just write x to be -100. They both works. Then visible opacity will be of 1, and then x to be 0. Now after that transition and duration will be of 0.3 seconds. After that we can add the Asian property. So we can go here and copy this and paste here. Okay, and remove this. So with this our variants are complete. Let's go here, add motion dot ul. Initial value will be hidden, and animate will be visible, and then we can pass the variant, and variant will be wrapper. Now here similarly use motion dot li, and then pass the variant, which will be list. And let's save and go back here, refresh the page. Okay, we need to provide the duration here, but as you can see we are getting animation over here for this first list. So similarly copy this, paste here, and here, and now we have our animation over here. Now let's go above and let's fast forward our animation a little bit. So instead of 8:5 we can have 5:5, and this should be 4:5. And as for this let's check. Okay, this is working, but I want this to be a little bit slower, so we can so this is working, but actually I want this all to be coming at the same time. If you want this animation, then that's good. Want all this to be coming at the same time, so we can add a delay over here, and which should be more than this, so we can add like 1. And now if I refresh this, okay, maybe so add a delay over here of 1 second. Now refresh it, and this is coming to be like this, which is good. So we can go with any of the animation that I showed you, but we are going with this right now. Okay, now let's animate this button. So for this button, I'm just going to simply make it visible from opacity 0 to 1. For that, I'm just going to add motion.div initial to be opacity of 0, then animate opacity of 1, then transition, and then provide the duration to be 0.3 and delay of maybe 1 seconds. Let's see. Okay, let's make it 1.5. Okay, now this is good. So here inside this div we are going to have motion.div. As you might have noticed, I am using motion.div inside the overflow hidden because I want the animation, the image to be coming from here but behind the background like this, and for that we need to add a motion.div inside the overflow hidden. Okay, now initially the opacity will be 0 and the X position will be minus 300 after animation, and while animating the opacity will be 1 and X value will be 0. Then add the transition here, duration of 0.5 seconds and delay of maybe 1.4 seconds. Refresh the page. Okay, so I think we can give this maybe 2. Okay, the delay is not working, and was that okay? so the spelling was wrong, delay, and this should be 1.5. yeah, so the animation is looking good, and I think with that we are done with our hero section. After that we are going to add this part. As you can see, when I scroll down, then this animation is happening. This animation can be achieved by 2 ways. I'll be showing you both. So let's get started. Let's go to our code, and one more component that we are making, which will be apps. .tsx. And now let's go to the page.tsx and we can import that here. Let's make this a client component, and after that we are going to import, and after that go here, remove this and give this div a class name of relative. Now inside this div make one more div, give this a class name of relative z10 and w full max w of screen excel and mx auto px4 smpx8 and lgpx16 py20, and display would be green, grid calls 1 and md grid calls 2, and gap y will be 8 and gap x will be 24, and above lg the gap will be 40. Now inside this div make one more div, give this a class name flex call item center, and gap will be 8. And inside this we are going to have a p tag, give this a class name, and inside that we can write tag key works everywhere, and below this make one more div, give this a class name flex w full justify around, and md justify between. Now inside this we are going to have an image from next image, give this a class name of h10 w auto sm h12, saturation will be 0, and on hover the saturation will be 100. Now transition all, duration will be of 100 milliseconds, and let's make it 300 milliseconds, and cursor pointer. Now let's give this src. So src will be node dot webp, and then alt, which will be node, and width will be of 114 pixels, and height will be of 102 pixels. Now let's save and go back here, and let's refresh this. Okay, we need to add the slash over here, and now we have our node over here. So okay, why this is not on hover? The saturation should be 100. So why this is not working? So I think we need to make the z index maybe 20. Okay, it will be 50. The SVG is over this whole section, so we need to go to the page.tsx, and we can remove the z index from here, and now this is working, and okay, everything is good. Now let's go back to the app.tsx, and if I remove this, this should still work. Okay, this is working, and give this a class name of text white. Okay, similarly we are going to add some more images here, and these images will be these. Save, and now we have all the images on the left side. Similarly we are going to do for the right side, and give this a class name text white, and okay, so we are done with our app section. Now we need to add a HR tag over here for the border. So below this div, make one more div, and this will be for this reddish background. Okay, so give this a class name of absolute inset 0, inset x 0, then bottom will be 0, and height will be of 96, and overflow will be here. Now inside this div, make one more div, give this a class name absolute left 1/2, then translate minus x 1/2, and then bottom will be 0, then translate y to be 1/2 in the negative direction, so add a negative over here. Then height will be of 50 pixels and W will be full. BG rows 500 divided by 30 and blur 3xl. Let's save and let's see. As you can see, now we have a reddish effect over here. Similarly, we can duplicate this and do some small changes over here. Change this to 75 pixels and this to about 40% opacity, and the width will be 2 by 3. Now let's save, and now as you can see we have this same effect. Okay, although I think this is a little bit more brighter. Okay, we need to remove the minus from here, and now these two are same. Okay, now after that we need to add this HR line. If you look closely, you will see that there is a line which is from HR tag. So below this div, make a HR tag, and we need to give this a class name. First, W will be full, border will be none, H of px, that means 1 pixel, BG gradient to right from rows 700 via rows 725 and to rows 700 0. Now let's save, and I think we messed up, but as you can see we have the HR tag over here. Let's give margin for now just to show you, and as you can see we have a HR line here over here, but that's not what we want. So let's fix that. We need to use the zero opacity over here, and now as you can see we have the same HR line. To make it visible, you can change this to white. Okay, and you'll see the HR line. Make it maybe 25, and this will be a little bit darker, but I'm going with the rose. So with that we are done with this section. Now we are going to work on the animation. So like I said, we are going to use two different kind of animation here. One will be the violin view. Let me show you. So apart from animation, we have many other options here: while drag, while focus, and also we have violin view. So whenever the user scrolls and come back to this position, that means when this particular section start showing on the web page to the user, the animation will happen. And the second thing that we are going to do is using the use scroll method. Okay, here right now I have used the scroll method, but you can use the violin view as well. Let's go below here and add motion dot div. Let's import that first. Import motion from frame of motion. Initially opacity will be 0, and while in view opacity will be 1, and also viewport leave it for now. So okay, Okay, let's do one thing, empty of maybe 32, so we do not see this uh, right here. So when I go below, let's increase this to maybe 80. Let's add a delay over here, transition and delay of 1 second. And as you can see, we are getting this animation. Okay, similarly, let's go here, add the motion.div. Initial will be opacity 0 and x will be minus 300, while in view opacity will be 1 and x will be 0. And let's delay it by, and let's add the transition here and add the delay of 1 second, and also duration of 0.5. Okay, so now I am here right now, and if I scroll down, you can see it is working. So now you can see this is working, but actually this is not what we want. In our case, we want that when we scroll down, then this animation happens, and for that we are going to use scroll here. Okay, so now I have removed the previous animation. Okay, and now we are going to use the use scroll over here. So for that, import the use scroll, and from React we are going to use ref. Now let's make a reference here, const scroll ref is equals to use ref, type will be HTML div element, and the initial value will be null. After that, we are going to get scroll y progress from use scroll, and inside that we have to pass the target. So the target will be scroll ref that we are going to pass here. And another thing is the offset. So the offset will be start and then end start. Okay, so let me explain this offset part, because this is the most important part of our scroll. So let's save this and refresh it, and also remove this part. So here, let's go to the documentation and go scroll, and here you will see the offset. Okay, so offset is an array of at least 2 interactions. Here the interaction is happening between target and the container. Now here the target is this component which have the ref, and the container is our viewport, that means the window. Okay, now about this offset, so this is the starting condition for our animation, and this is the ending condition of our animation. Now here when the start, that means the start position of the target, that means this this line. So when this line, okay, meet with the end of the viewport, okay, like this, it is not meeting, then we start our animation. And when the end of the target, that means this line, meets the start, that means the top of the viewport, when these two meets, then we start the ending animations, okay, like here. So it meets, and after that we start the condition. Now you do not see animation immediately here because there's a delay that I have given, and also some other variables which we will talk later. So if that clears, let me explain you one more time that the start of the target, this when meets the end of the viewport, then we start the animation, and when the end of the target and start of the viewport meets, then we start the ending animation, okay. Now after that we get our scroll by progress, its value. Now here we want to transform this value to other values, and for that the frame of motion gives us another hook, which is use transform, okay. So we can use this value to transform our scroll by progress to another values like opacity, translate X, scale, etc. and etc. So we are going to use opacity and translate X in our case. So we can write const opacity is equals to use transform from emotion, and first we are going to provide the scroll by progress, then it will take two more arrays. Now first array will be the value which we get from the scroll by progress, which always is between from 0 to 1, and based on that we are going to write the values for opacity. So when the scroll value is 0, the opacity will be 0. When the scroll value will be 0.3, we still want that the opacity to be 0, and that is why we are getting this late animation, because up to 0.3 value of scroll we are not showing any of our element, and after that at 0.5 value the opacity will be 1. So we are immediately just from 0.3 to 0.5 we are increasing the opacity from 0 to 1. So this is a sudden increase in comparison to the scroll by progress, and after that we are keeping this as a constant. So when we reaches 1, we are going to still be at 1, okay. Now similarly we can have the translate X value, we can copy, then use transform, pass the scroll by progress and two arrays here. On 0 the value will be 200, initially it will be at x is equals to 200, then 0.1 the value will become 100. So here we are giving the sudden movement, okay. Then for 0.5 we have already back to our original position, and then 0 again, and here 1. Now let's add these styles over here. First we make this motion.div and add the style, opacity and translate X. Let's save this, refresh the page, and if I scroll down, okay, we are not seeing anything here. Oh, so I see the problem was that there's not enough room to see the whole animation here, since from 0 to 0.3 the opacity is 0. So if we change this to 0.5, you can see we are seeing a little bit animation over here, and if we change this to 1, we'll see more. So just to show you, let me add the empty of maybe 64. Okay, not empty, pt, and mb 64, and now as you can see we have our animation over here. Okay, so the problem was that we did not have the enough space for the whole animation. Okay, so for now let's remove this, and with that we are done with our this section as well. Now we are going to move to this part, and when we make this, our animation will uh, run as usual. So now we are going to work on the next component. So let's go to the page.tsx, and here we are going to make the next component, which will be comparison. Okay, and also make this overflow hidden. Now let's go to the components and make that component here. And let's export it here, import it here. Okay, compare the, okay, the spelling is wrong. Now let's import it here and go to the comparison.tsx. First we are going to, as usual, write our jsx here. So give this div a class name here, and which will be relative, and inside this div make one more div, give this class name as well, of w full max w screen of excel, and mx auto px4 sm px8 and lgpx16 for different devices, and padding top will be 24. Now inside this div add a h1 tag, give this a class name of mb6 and text 2xl sm text 3xl lg text 4xl and text white, text center, and font semi-bold, overflow hidden. Now inside this h1 tag we are going to write below this, make a p tag, give this a class name of mb16 text center and max w of excel, mx auto, and font will be light, and text zinc for the color, which will be 500, and inside that we can write. Now after that we are going to add these two parts. On left side we are going to have a SVG, and second side we are going to have this. So let's add the SVG first. So below this p tag we are going to have a div, and we are going to give this a class name. We are going to use grid for making that section. So grid calls 1, and if the window size is greater than LG, then we are going to use grid calls 2. Now gap y will be 12 and gap x will be 10, and item. And now inside this div, make one more div. Inside that we are going to have the SVG. So give this a class name of relative text sm max w of LG. And now here we are going to have our SVG, and let's save it and go back here, refresh the page, and we have our SVG over here. Now let's add the text over here. So below the SVG we are going to add a div over here, and now give this a class name of position absolute, left 0 and top 0. Now inside that we are going to have a span, and give this a class name. So the class name will be flex item center, and gap will be 1. Now inside the span we are going to have one more span, and we are going to write complexity, and below that we are going to have one more span. Inside that we are going to have the SVG. Now below this we are going to have one more span, and we can write this. Then in the next line we can have one more span, give this a class name of flex, gap will be 1.5, and item center, and then empty 2. Now inside this make one more span and give this a class name of text red 400, and add a dash here, and then one more span. Okay, and inside that we can write without tagging. Now similarly we can duplicate this, and we can remove this, and here we can use the green color. Now save, and okay, we have the colors over here. Okay, the span should be outside this one. And now let's make the text white, so we can add that here, text white. Okay, and I think I made a mistake over here, so this span should be here, and now we should have this something like this, and we can remove this and put it here. So now we have the proper stance of our text. Now let's make the right side. So below actually this div, make one more div, give this a class name LGPR of 16, and inside this we are going to have another list, give this class name as well, of overflow hidden and px2. Now let's make list here. Inside that we are going to have a button. Now this button will have classes, and that would be text white, and flex position display gap will be 4, item center text left, and position will be relative. Now inside this button we are going to have one more div. Then we have a class name of absolute minus left 2, and width will be 9 and height will be 9, and rounded axle, and we are going to give this a color, and the BG color will be this, and there's nothing going to be inside this div. Now below that make one more div, give this a class name of absolute minus left 2 W9 and H9, and this time and rounded axle, and border color will be white with 10% opacity. And now inside this div we are not going to do anything. Below that make one more div, give this a class name of relative BG gradient to bottom right from, and the color will be from zinc 100 to zinc 500, and then height will be h5 and width will be h5 and width will be 5. Border radius will be rounded MD, and P will be PX, which is 1 pixel. Now inside this div make one more div, give this a class name relative rounded of 5 pixels, and H will be full, W will be full, flex item center, justify center, and BG white. And now inside this div we are going to have a SVG. Now after that below this div make one more div, inside that we are going to have one more div, give this div a class name of font light text zinc of 300, and then we are going to write error handling. Then below make one more div, give this class name of text extra small, which is 12 pixels, text zinc of 400, and inside that we can write this. So now if I save this and go back here, you'll see that okay, now I have the right portion here, but actually I'm not able to see this part, and actually this div should be outside this div. Okay, now let's save and we should be able to see this. Okay, similarly we are going to write for other allies, so we can just copy this, and for the other allies we are not going to have this, and we are going to have BG black. Now as you can see we have an empty box over here. So similarly we can do for others. You can copy the other allies from my GitHub, so you do not have to do the same step over and over. So now as you can see I have added all the allies here. Now one more SVG that we need to add here, which will be the arrow one, this arrow. So we can add just below the ally tag, and we can do it for all of them. And now let's save and go back here. And actually we do not need to do for the first one. Okay, so now as you can see with that, we have our right section ready. Now here we are done with this part. Actually this chart also comes inside this component, but let's first animate these parts and then we can go with this chart. Okay, so let's make this a line component first, and then import our motion, and this should be motion. Now first we are going to animate our h1 tags, so we can do that directly. Initial translate x, and the initial value will be 200 and the opacity will be 0, and on while in view we are going to make the translate x to be 0 and opacity will be 1. And let's define the transition here. So the transition will be of duration 0.5 seconds. Now let's go here, and as you can see we have the animation. We can make it fast according to this, so or let's make this slow a little bit. So let's go to the app.tsx, and this is the scroll part. We can make this a little bit slow. Okay, now you can make this a little bit more slow. So you can play around with these values, and also as you can see the animation works every time I say this component. If you want to make this component to animate only one time, you can use uport once property to true, and this will run the animation only one time. As you can see, this runs one time. Okay, let me refresh this, and as you can see this is not animating anymore because we have already animated this one time. Okay, now so I'm going to leave this with one stroke. Similarly we can do for the p tag, so we can copy this and paste here and make this p. Let's refresh. Okay, so this is good. Now we are going to animate our SVG over here like this. Okay, so we can directly animate this as well, and we can also do that by using variant. I'll show you the both. Now in the documentation here you can see that you can use the line, path or circle of SVG to animate them like this, and for that you just need to add the motion. You can add the motion like you add the motion to the usual tag here as well. So for animation, the rectangle which we have here below, as you can see this is the rectangle. For animating this we can add the motion over here, and we can define the initial properties. So like initial path length, and this will be 0, then opacity will be 0, and translate x will be 100, and on animation, which is while in view, we can just copy this and paste here, and this time the path length will be 1, which is the whole path. Opacity will be 1 and this will be 0. If I save this, and as you can see, when I refresh the page, this animation happens. You might not be able to see it. If you look closely, you will be able to see the animation. Okay, we can just copy this similarly and paste here, make this line, and you will see this animation. Okay, paste it here as well, make this path, and we can refresh and you will see this whole SVG animate. Okay, so you can do this like this as well. We can add the duration here using the transition. Let the duration to be 0.5. Copy this and paste everywhere. And now this is a little bit smoother. And also we can use the viewport to be once true. So you can do the animation like this, or you can do that by making a variant over here like this, and it will work the same. Here they have used the dynamic value I for calculating the delay for each path. Okay, so the both will work same in our case, so we are going with this one. But let me show you. So I have this variant already, and we just need to go here, remove all this. Okay, just add the variant to be draw. Copy this and paste here and here. Okay, and then we are going to define initial. So initial will be hidden and visible. Okay, while in view, visible. Now copy this and paste here and here. Save this, refresh the page, and you'll see the animation just like before. And if I come from here to here, since we have used the viewport once, this will not animate. So we can animate this SVG in both ways, and this variant is doing not much different from what we did earlier, because our case is very simpler, but for more complex ones we can use this variant. So we are going to leave it like this, or you can use the previous way to animate this SVG if you like. So after this we are going to animate this part, so which is here. So we are going to simply make this appear. So use motion.div and initial to be opacity 0, and while in view it will be opacity of 1, viewport of once true, and then we can add the transition here of delay 0.3 seconds, and the duration will be of 0.5 seconds. Okay, so with this done, we are going to animate our ULs. So we are going to use the same technique as we did here, but in the vertical direction. So let's use motion.ul, and we can copy the variants from here and paste here. And this time here, instead of X, we are going to use Y, in the negative direction and y here as well. Now let's go below and change the duration to 0.3. Now let's go below. At the variant here, variant will be wrapper, initial will be hidden, and while in view it will be visible, and viewport once true. And here we can use motion .li, variant will be list. Copy this and paste everywhere. Okay, this is not working. Let's go and let's see what is okay. This is value, but we want variant, so remove this and write variants, and this will be list. Now copy this, or you can use option command F to find value, which is 4. Okay, this is also showing, so we can use this. So you can activate all these three to find the perfect match and replace this with variants. Okay, I think the spelling is correct. Okay, then press enter, and we are done. Refresh it. Okay, so we are getting the animation, but we do not want that. We want something like this. Okay, so let's see what is wrong here. Okay, we do not need to use the delay over here. And now let's, okay, as you can see, now the animation works perfectly. Refresh it one more time. Okay, as you can see, the animation works perfectly. Okay, so this is working. So with that, we are done with our animation of this part. And now let's animate our chart over here. Now for this chart, we are going to use rechart, but we are going to do some style changes here so we can get something like this. And for the animation, we are just going to scale this up like this. We are going to just scale this up and show the animation. Okay, so this will be very simple animation. And now let's make our chart over here. And for the charts, I'm going to use rechart over here, and we are going to do some style changes here to make it look like this. And for the animation, we are just going to scale this up from. So now let's go to our code, and we are going to work in the same component. Let's minimize this, and below this div, make one more div, give this a class name, and we can just copy this from here, paste here. Instead of 2, we are going to use 1, so we can just remove this, and we can change the y value to 16. This is 6 and pt 32, and then remove this. Now inside this, make one more div, give this a class name, w full, height of 500 pixels, let's say for LG, otherwise height will be of 300 pixels, rounded axle, and shadow SM, then position will be relative. Now inside that, make one more div, give this class name as well, of absolute left 4 and top 4. Now inside this div, make one more div, give this a class name of text SM, which will hold our text. So S3, give this class text LG, font semi-bold, and we can write chart analysis Now below that, make a p tag, give this a class name, text gray of 600. Inside that we can write this. Now below this, make one more div, add a class name empty2, and inside that make a span. Now give this span a class name flex item center gap 1, and now this span will contain another span font medium, and we can write complexity indicator, and after that below this span make one more span, give this a class name text gray 500. inside that we can write this. Similarly we can write some more text over here, baseline no effect and this, and now let's save and go back here, and now we'll see our text over here. Let's give all of them text white. Okay, so those who do not have any kind of text color, the default color will be white, otherwise we have some colors over here, and they should be 500. Okay, so now this is looking good. Now we are going to go to the reach chart, and from here go to the examples, then simple tiny bar chart, and we are going to use this here. Okay, so let's go here and import the bar chart and other components from the chart. So import bar chart, but before that let's install the rechart first. So we can write npm I recharts, and then we can import bar chart from rechart. Okay, bar chart bar, and then responsive container. Apart from that, we are also going to need data, so you can copy the data from my GitHub, and I'm going to paste the data right here. You can go ahead and store this data in other component if you want to. And now after that we are also going to define a function to random generate the color of our bar. So below this props you can write another function. So below this data write another function, and we can write get random color, so let color is equals to backtick HSL parenthesis $, then math dot random, and after that we are going to multiply with 360, then 100% and 85%. So and then we are going to return our color. So now with that done, we can go below, and outside this div we can add a responsive container. Now we are going to specify the width will be 100%, then height will be 100%, and then we are going to have the style. Inside the style we are going to have padding of 6, and the top value will be 100. and inside that we are going to use bar charts. So we can go here and copy this and paste. So for now let's save and go back to our server, and as you can see now we have a chart over here. So this is looking good, but we are going to make it something like this so it can match the theme of our website. So before adding some more definitions to our bar chart, we are going to customize the bar. So we are going to add a style over here of backdrop filter of blur of 10 pixel, and the radius will be 10 10 0 0, so only the top corners. So this will look something like this. Now we can remove the color from here. So now as you can see we do not have any kind of a color here. Now we are going to redefine our bar chart. So we are going to use defs, and inside that we are going to use linear gradient. So like linear gradient to get this kind of effect. Now let's give this a id, and id will be color uv and these properties. And now inside this we are going to use this to define our gradient. And now let's get the random color from the above function. So we can write const random color is equals to get random color. Now let's save, and now okay, so still we do not have our bar. So let's go below. Oh, this should be small. And now let's save and go back here, and as you can see we have the perfect gradient color for the bars. Let's refresh, and this is the second. So if you do not add any animation over here, we can use the default animation from the bar chart, from the V chart, to get this kind of animation. But as you can see this is animating correct, but there is some glitch for this part, and that's why we are going to use the frame of motion on this hole. Okay, apart from that we are going to use fillet to give this a little bit blur effect. Okay, so you can copy this from GitHub, and yeah, the change is very small so you cannot see that, but you can add this in your bar chart. So now with that we are done with the chart. Now we are going to animate this. Also let's add a border here. So border of 0.5 pixels and border neutral of 700. So now this is looking good, and now let's animate this. So use the motion dot div initial opacity will be of 0 and scale will be of 0.7, while in view opacity will be 1 and scale will be of 1. Viewport once true, and transition. So the transition delay will be 0.5 and duration will be 0.5. Now let's save. Okay, so now this is good. Now let's define our text part. So add the motion dot div here. Initial will be opacity 0 and the translate x of 100, and while in view opacity will be 1 and translate x 0, and then we can copy this from here and let's make the delay to 1. Now refresh this, and as you can see we get the perfect animation. So with that we are done with this component. Next we are going to make this component. Okay, now let's make one more component here, stats.tsx. Okay, rename this tsx, and now let's import that here. Let's go to that component, remove this, and this time we are going to animate and render same time. So let's make this client component. Then we are going to import our motion from frame of motion, and now inside this function we are going to write some variants. So actually we can just go here and copy these two variants, and we are going to do small changes here. So first the wrapper, this will be same, and here translate x will be -100. Then we are going to copy this and paste it here, this will be 0, and then transition stagger children will be 0.125, and then that's it. So this will be the wrapper state. Okay, and we can just duplicate this, and now this will be the wrapper, and here the opacity will be 0, and we can remove this, and I think that's it. Okay, now for the list we can remove the delay from here, and we can add the duration. So duration of 0.3 seconds, and this will be y, and this will be y. Okay, so apart from this everything will be same. Now let's go inside our JSX, give this a class name of relative, and inside that make one more div, give this a class name as well, w full max w screen excel mx auto px4 smpx8 lgpx16, and grid calls 1, lg grid calls 2, and gap y will be 12. Now inside that make one more div, give this a class name lg pr16, and overflow will be hidden. Now inside this div make one more div. Inside that we are going to have s2 tag, give this a class name of text to excel, and sm text 3 excel lg text 4 excel, text white max wmd font semi bold, and inside that we can write this. Now below that we are going to have a p tag, and this will contain this. Okay, the class will be mt6 mb3 max wxl font light, and text color will be zinc 400. Now below that we are going to have an anchor tag, href will be slash, give this a class name flex item start text white, and Inside that we can have a span, give this a class name of font light, and this will, and inside that we can write this. Now below this we are going to have a svg, so this will be the svg, and we are getting some kind of error. So duration, okay, we have defined duration 2 times, so duration will be 0.3, and I think, yeah, this should be motion. Okay, so everything is good. If save this, and now we have our component here. Also here add padding of 32, and now this is good. Okay, now below this div, okay, this div, we are going to have one more div, give this a class name of overflow hidden. Now inside this div we are going to have one more div, same, we are going to have h3 text excel text white. Now below this we can copy this anchor tag and paste it here. Now after that, below anchor tag we are going to have another list, give this a class name relative empty6 and space y3. Now inside that make a div, give this a class name absolute left 0 and wpx, that means 1 pixel, minus inset y12, then gradient to bottom from white of 0 opacity via white of 20 opacity to white of 0 opacity. Now below this div we are going to have our list, give this a class name of relative w full, and inside that we are going to have a div relative item center text sm text white font medium px2 w full flex gap of 4 height of 6 white space no wrap justify between. And also about this div, make one more div and give this a class name of absolute insert 0 bg zinc of 700 rounded r md, and also add an inline style here of opacity of 100% and the width will be of 100%. Now inside this div we are going to have a span, then anchor tag, give this a class name flex item center gap of 1 text white and font medium, and inside that make a span, here we can write docs and then add this svg. Now let's save and go back here, and as you can see we have one list over here. Similarly we can do for others. So now I have added all the allies here, and the only change is the opacity and the width. You can copy this from the GitHub, and now let's save. Now as you can see we have all the allies here. Now after that, below this we are going to have a hr tag and give this a class name of w full border none h of px, then bg gradient of 2r from white opacity 0 via white opacity will be 20 to white opacity 0 and empty 20. Now let's save, and we have the HR here. Okay, so with that we are done with the JSX. Now let's add the animation here. So let's go above. Firstly, let's add the animation here. Motion dot div initial translate x of 100 and opacity 0. While in view, translate x 0 and opacity 1. And for transition, duration will be 0.5 and viewport 1 stroke. Now let's go below here, add motion dot div, then add the variants, which will be wrapper state. Now let's add the initial state, which will be hidden, and then while in view, which will be visible. And we can add a class name here, grow and order of 2. After that, let's go below and here add the motion.ul, and variant will be wrapper. And then we can go below and here we can add motion.li and variant will be list. Do the same for others, and this should be variants. Copy this and add it here, here, here and here. Now let's save and go back here, refresh the page, and as you can see the animation. So with that we are done with this component as well. And now we are going to one thing that we need to add here, which is viewport once true. And now we'll see this only one time. And now after that we need to work on our community section. Add one more component here, name people.tsx, and let's add it here. Now let's go back here and remove this. Now let's add a class name here, relative and pb20. Inside this div, make one more div, give this a class name of absolute, insert x0 and top 0, h of 96 and overflow hidden. Now inside this div we are going to have one more div, give this a class name absolute left 1/2 and minus translate x 1/2 minus and minus translate x 1/2 top 0 and minus translate y 1/2 bg white, opacity will be 5% and blur 3xl, and also give this a style which will be border radius of 50% and 50%. Now after that, below this div, make one more div, give this a class name of wfull, max w screen excel, mx auto, px4 sm, px8 and lg px16 and pt32. Now after that, below this, add h2 tag, give this a class name, text 2xl, sm text 3xl and lg text 4xl, text 4xl, text white and text center mb16. Now after that, below this is to make a div, then inside that make one more div, give this a class name of h28 flex and justify between. Now inside this make one more div, give this a class name of hfull and flex and item center. Then one more div, give this a class name of relative h8 and w8, and then one more div of class name relative wfull, hfull, overflow hidden, rounded full, border and border white and shadow lg. And inside that we are going to have our image, from next image source. So the source will be avatar 1.webp, avatar image, and then we can define the width, which will be 100 and height will be 100. Now let's save and go back here, and I'll see one avatar here. Now add this text inside the h2 tag, and font should be semi-bold. Okay, similarly we can add the others. You can copy that from my GitHub, and now we will have the first row of the images. Now after that, let's animate these first, and then we can add the others, which will be the same. Okay, so let's make this a client component. And then we are going to define our variants. So go to the hero and copy this variant, paste it here, then make one more variant which will be the item hidden, and this will be y minus 20, opacity will be 0 and scale will be 0. Then we are going to have visible, and this will have y0, opacity will be 0, no 1, and scale will be 1. Okay, now let's go below. First we are going to animate our h2 tag, so motion dot h2, and initial condition will be opacity 0, and while in view opacity will be of 1, transition will be duration of 0.3, and viewport once will be true. After that, inside this div here, motion.div, variant will be wrapper and initial will be hidden, and while in view this will be visible, and we can add a viewport once true, and then here we can add motion dot div and variant, which will be item. Now copy this and paste everywhere, and now let's save and go back here, refresh the page. Okay, so the animation is not working perfectly. Okay, as you can see here, this is a little bit different what we are getting here. Okay, the problem is that we missed the N here. Now let's save and go back here, refresh the page, and as you can see we have the proper animation. One more thing, that this should be 0.5 and we will get a little bit faster animation. Okay, so similarly we can do for the below part as well, and I'm going to just copy the code from my GitHub, and you can do the same. If you want, you can do it by yourself. So I have pasted the code here. Okay, now let's save and go back here, and we have our whole section. Okay, now this part is a little bit more delayed, so we can go below and decrease the delay time. Okay, now this is good. So with that, we are done with our website. Now only part that is left to do is the footer section, which I'm going to copy and paste it here from my GitHub, since there is nothing much to learn from that. So with that, we are done with our application. And so if you like this tutorial, then do subscribe and like this video, and we are going to meet in the next video.